Have you ever wondered why so few people live well after 80? Not just making it to their 80th birthday, but actually thriving, waking up with energy, clear thoughts, steady steps, and a reason to smile each morning? If you look around, you'll notice something. For every person over 80 who seems vibrant and full of life, there are many more who fade quickly, sometimes within just a few years of reaching that milestone. Now, most people think it's just the roll of the dice, genetics, old age, something out of our control. But what if I told you that luck plays a much smaller role than we've been led to believe? What if, beneath the surface, there are four powerful and often invisible forces slowly draining life from the body? Forces that begin working long before 80, but only show their full damage later on. And the real danger? Most people never even see them coming. They aren't dramatic, like a sudden illness. They don't make headlines in your medical chart right away. Instead, they work quietly, day after day, year after year, until one day you look in the mirror and realize that the person staring back doesn't move or feel quite like they used to. Doctors know about them. Researchers have been studying them for decades. Yet, strangely, they don't get talked about in a way most people truly understand until it's too late. Think about the people you've known in their 80s. Maybe there was a neighbor who seemed unstoppable in their 70s, gardening, walking to the store, laughing at block parties, but by 82 was barely leaving the house. Or maybe it was a relative who always had sharp wit and strong opinions until something shifted. Their memory slipped, their movement slowed, their spark dimmed. From the outside, it looks like aging. But if you look closer, you'll see the fingerprints of these four forces. And here's the thing. Once you know what they are, you can do something about them. You can prepare for them years in advance. You can even push back against them once they've started. This isn't about trying to live forever. That's not the goal. It's about living better for as long as you can, about protecting your independence, your strength, and your peace of mind instead of quietly watching them slip away. In the next few minutes, I'm going to reveal all four of these forces, each one backed by research, each one more important than you might think, and each one with simple, practical ways to fight back. But before we start, I want you to imagine something, but picture your life in your 80s. Not the number on the calendar, but the day-to-day. When you open your eyes in the morning, what do you feel? Do you swing your legs out of bed and stand up with ease? Or do you sit there for a moment, gathering the courage to move? When you walk to the kitchen, is your step steady and confident? Or do you shuffle, watching every rug and doorway for fear of a fall? When you talk to a friend, if you still have friends nearby, is the conversation lively and warm? Or do you find yourself straining to remember a name, a date, a simple detail? This is the reality most people will face, unless they understand what's working against them. Now, I'll be honest. Some of what you're about to hear might surprise you. One of these four forces is almost never mentioned in medical checkups, even though it can have more impact on longevity than certain chronic diseases. Another works so slowly that by the time you notice the damage, reversing it becomes much harder, but still possible. And one is so common that people think it's just normal, when in reality, it's quietly robbing them of years of life. The good news? These forces are not unstoppable. They're not destiny. They can be weakened. In some cases, they can even be reversed, if you know where to focus. This isn't about doing everything perfectly or turning your life upside down. It's about awareness, because awareness turns into small choices, and small choices, repeated over time, are what keep people steady, sharp, and strong, long after most of their peers have slowed down. And here's another important truth. Fighting these forces isn't something you start at 79. The earlier you start, the better your chances. But even if you're already in your 80s or caring for someone who is, the body is more adaptable than most people believe. You'll hear stories of people in their 80s and beyond who fought back against these challenges, not by doing extreme things, but by making consistent, simple changes. Changes that kept them walking without a cane. Changes that kept their minds clear enough to remember birthdays and tell stories to grandchildren. Changes that helped them wake up feeling like they still had a purpose. Now, I want to set one thing straight before we begin. This isn't a lecture about what you should have done in your younger years. It's not about guilt. It's not about perfection. It's about options. Real, practical options you can start today, whether you're 50, 60, 70, or already past 80. Because every step you take to protect your strength, your sleep, your mind, and your sense of purpose is a step toward a better tomorrow. So, what are these 4 forces? But what could possibly be so powerful that they quietly shorten lives after 80, and yet so overlooked that most people never think about them? We'll start with one that's completely invisible to the naked eye, yet can be measured in almost every cell in your body. It doesn't cause sudden pain. It doesn't make you rush to the emergency room. But over time, it chips away at your energy, your mobility, and even your ability to think clearly. Doctors have a name for it. Researchers have been sounding the alarm for years. And the more you understand it, the more you'll see it's one of the key reasons so many people fade faster than they should. Let's dive into the first and perhaps most underestimated force that works against us after 80. If you could step inside your body right now and see what's happening on a microscopic level, you might be shocked. Because somewhere inside, even if you feel fine, a tiny fire could be burning. Not the kind that makes you rush to the hospital, but the kind that quietly smolders, day in and day out, wearing you down from the inside. Doctors have a name for it: inflammaging. It's a blend of 2 words, inflammation and aging, and it describes the chronic, low-grade inflammation that slowly builds up as we get older. The problem is, most people don't even know it's there until it's already done years of damage. This isn't the same inflammation you get when you twist an ankle and it swells up, or when you cut your finger and it gets red and puffy. That kind of inflammation is your body's emergency response team, quick to act, quick to heal. Inflammaging is different. It's subtle, yet it's sneaky. And it doesn't heal, it lingers. You don't feel it like a throbbing ache. You can't see it in the mirror, but it's quietly damaging your cells, your tissues, your joints, your blood vessels, even your brain. Let me tell you about George. George was 82 when he went to see his doctor because he was feeling off. Not sick, not in pain, just tired, a little foggy, a little stiff in the mornings. His friends told him, "You're just getting older, George. It's normal." But something didn't sit right with him. After a round of blood tests, the doctor spotted the clues, high levels of inflammatory markers in his system. George didn't have a specific disease. He wasn't battling a major infection. But inside his body, the quiet fire of inflammaging had been burning for years. The scary thing, George isn't rare. This is happening to millions of people, especially over 80. And because the symptoms are so subtle, tiredness, stiffness, brain fog, they get brushed off as just aging. But here's the truth. Inflammaging is not inevitable. It builds up over decades because of certain triggers, and if you know what they are, you can start turning the flame down. Here are some of the biggest culprits. Years of processed foods, packaged snacks, refined sugars, and oils that cause tiny, repeated spikes in inflammation. Poor sleep when your body can't fully repair overnight. Low-level damage lingers. Stress, not just the big crises, but the daily, unrelenting grind of tension that never quite goes away. Lack of movement, sitting for hours, signals your body that you're in storage mode and circulation slows. Environmental toxins, pollution, secondhand smoke, even certain cleaning products that release harmful particles. Now, here's where it gets even more challenging. When you're younger, your body is better at bouncing back from these triggers. You can eat that fast food burger, skip a night of sleep, and your cells still repair themselves fairly well. But after 80, your body's repair crew starts to shrink. The same habits that barely made a dent in your 40s can cause big cracks in your 80s. And those cracks, they don't just affect one thing. They ripple across your entire system. Inflammaging Kentur. In paytav to stemptepet have bijtering turb can aid to under 60. But barako pempiond is in a vitamin tutus tutical pempier find it tutus make your joints ache and stiffen. Slow your brain's ability to process and remember. Weaken your immune system so colds linger and infections hit harder. Damage your heart and blood vessels, raising your risk for serious cardiovascular problems. Speed up muscle loss, making you weaker and more prone to falls. In other words, it's like rust. You might not notice it on the surface for years, but underneath, it's quietly eating away at your foundation. So, how do you fight something you can't see or feel? The answer is simpler than you think, and it doesn't involve expensive treatments or complicated regimens. George's story has a second chapter. Once he understood what was happening, he started making small but consistent changes. He swapped packaged snacks for whole foods, nuts, fresh fruit, vegetables, and lean proteins. He made walking non-negotiable, even if it was just 10 minutes after each meal. He took his sleep seriously, keeping a bedtime routine and turning off screens an hour before bed. He practiced small stress resets, a few minutes of deep breathing, listening to music he loved, calling a friend. Within a few months, his energy started to return. His stiffness eased. His brain fog lifted. He didn't turn into a 25-year-old overnight, but he felt alive again. And that's the thing about inflammaging. You can't erase every bit of it, but you can lower it enough that your body works with you instead of against you. Even if you're already in your 80s, those changes add up faster than you think. Here's something else you need to know. Research shows that lowering inflammation can also help protect against some of the most feared conditions of later life: dementia, heart disease, and frailty. It's not a guarantee, but it's one of the most powerful insurance policies you can give yourself. You don't have to become a health fanatic. You don't have to live in the gym or give up every comfort food you enjoy. It's about balance and giving your body more chances to heal than to hurt. So ask yourself, what's one thing you could change this week to turn down that silent fire? Could you swap your afternoon cookie for a handful of almonds? Could you take a short walk after lunch instead of sitting right back down? Could you cut back one soda a day? Or go to bed 30 minutes earlier? These small acts might seem too simple to matter, but when you stack them up over days, weeks, and years, they become a shield, one that can help you move through your 80s with more energy, steadiness, and clarity. Because inflammaging may be invisible, but so is your body's ability to repair if you give it the right tools. And here's the twist. Even if you win the fight against inflammation, another force is waiting right behind it. This one you can see in the mirror, in the way your clothes fit, in the way your body feels when you try to climb stairs or get out of a chair. It's the slow, steady loss of something you've relied on every day of your life, and losing it makes every other risk after 80 even more dangerous. If inflammaging is like a silent fire eating away at your foundation, sarcopenia is the slow theft of the walls that hold your house together. You can't live without them, and yet many people don't notice they're being stripped away until it's almost too late. Sarcopenia is the medical term for age-related muscle loss. It's not just about shrinking biceps or softer legs. It's about losing the very thing that keeps you upright, balanced, and independent. And here's the shocking part. This theft starts decades before you feel it. On average, after age 30, most people lose about 3 to 8% of their muscle mass every decade. But after 60, the pace picks up. By the time you reach 80, muscle disappears much faster. The legs weaken, the back rounds, the arms struggle to lift what they once could. It doesn't announce itself with a loud crash. Instead, it whispers. You notice it when you take the stairs and feel just a bit more out of breath. When you stand up from a chair and need to push with your hands instead of just your legs. When the grocery bags feel heavier than they used to. I'll never forget Frank's story. Frank was 84. He was witty, sharp, and still living alone. He walked to the store, cooked his own meals, and loved gardening. But one afternoon, a small rug caught his toe. He tripped, fell, and broke his hip. The surgery went fine, but recovery was brutal. Weeks in bed drained what little muscle strength he had left. By the time he went home, he needed a walker. The garden grew weeds. The walks to the store stopped. What surprised Frank the most wasn't the pain. It was how fast his independence slipped away. That's the cruel trick of sarcopenia. One fall can trigger a spiral. Less muscle means less balance. Less balance means more falls. More falls mean more bed rest. And bed rest accelerates muscle loss even more. But here's what most people don't realize. Muscle isn't just about strength. It's a living, active tissue that affects almost every system in your body. It supports your joints. It helps regulate your blood sugar. It boosts your metabolism so you can maintain a healthy weight. It even plays a role in keeping your immune system strong. When muscle mass declines, all of those functions start to weaken. The good news? Sarcopenia isn't a life sentence. You can slow it. You can reverse it. And you don't have to spend hours in a gym to do it. Let's break it down. The key to protecting muscle after 80 comes down to 3 main things. 1. Use it or lose it. Your muscles respond to what you ask them to do. If you sit most of the day, your body gets the message. We don't need all this muscle. Let's get rid of it. That's why movement is critical. And I don't mean running marathons. Walking counts. Gardening counts. Carrying groceries counts. Even standing up from a chair without using your hands is a powerful exercise. 2. Feed your muscles. Protein isn't just for bodybuilders. After 80, your body actually needs more protein to maintain the same muscle it had in your younger years. Think eggs, fish, chicken, beans, tofu, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese. And instead of eating it all in one meal, spread it out during the day. That way, your muscles get a steady supply of the building blocks they need. 3. Challenge them gently. You don't need to lift heavy weights, but you do need to give your muscles a reason to grow. Resistance bands, light dumbbells, or even bodyweight exercises like wall push-ups and gentle squats can make a huge difference. The secret is consistency. 2 to 3 short sessions a week can transform your strength over time. George from our last section worked on reducing his inflammation, but he also realized that his legs were getting weaker. So he started doing something simple. Each morning, he stood up from his chair 10 times in a row without using his hands. At first, he struggled after 5. But after a few weeks, he was up to 15 without breaking a sweat. That small daily challenge helped him feel steadier on his feet. He noticed he could walk farther without resting, climb steps more easily, and get up from the floor without help. And here's why this matters so much. Muscle is your body's armor. It's the difference between catching yourself when you trip or hitting the floor hard. It's what lets you open jars, carry laundry, and reach for things on high shelves. It's what keeps you independent. Even people in their late 80s can build muscle. Studies have shown that with the right training, seniors in their 80s and 90s can double their strength in just a few months. It's not about looking younger. It's about living younger. Now, protecting your muscles is critical. But even if you've got strong legs and arms, there's another force that can undo your hard work. It doesn't strike when you're active, it strikes when you're resting. Or rather, when you can't rest the way your body needs. Because without this next piece, your muscles can't repair, your brain can't clear out waste, and your immune system can't fully reset. And unfortunately, after 80, this piece becomes one of the trickiest things to get right. If muscle is your armor, and inflammation is the fire eating at it, then poor sleep is like letting the repair crew go home early every single night. Your body needs that crew, not just to fix the day's wear and tear, but to prepare you for tomorrow. After 80, sleep often changes. Sometimes it's lighter, sometimes it's shorter, sometimes it's broken into bits, a couple hours here, an hour there. And while it might seem harmless, those changes can quietly erode your health in ways that aren't obvious right away. I've seen it in people like Alice. When Alice was 86 and proud of her sharp mind, she did the crossword every morning, remembered birthdays without a calendar, and could still tell stories from her childhood down to the smallest detail. But over a few years, she began waking up 3 or 4 times each night. She brushed it off as just getting older. Then came the brain fog. Then the daytime naps she never used to take. Then the frustration over forgetting simple words mid-sentence. When her doctor explained the connection, she was stunned. Sleep isn't just about resting. It's about rebuilding. Here's what happens during good deep sleep. Your brain clears out waste, tiny toxic proteins that build up during the day and can affect memory and thinking. Your muscles repair. All those microscopic tears from moving around get patched up so you wake up stronger. Your immune system resets, ready to fight off infections the next day. Your hormones balance, regulating everything from appetite to stress levels. When sleep is poor, every one of these systems suffers. The result? But you feel weaker, you think slower, you get sick more easily. And here's the kicker. Poor sleep can make inflammation worse and speed up muscle loss. So, why does sleep get harder after 80? A few reasons. Changes in the body's internal clock. Your circadian rhythm shifts, so you might get sleepy earlier in the evening and wake up earlier in the morning. Less deep sleep. Older adults often spend less time in the deepest, most restorative stages of sleep. More nighttime awakenings, pain, needing the bathroom, or environmental noise can interrupt rest. Medications. Some prescriptions have side effects that disrupt sleep patterns. And here's something that often gets overlooked. After 80, even small disruptions like a few nights of poor sleep can have bigger ripple effects. What used to be a mild inconvenience in your 40s can feel like a heavy fog in your 80s. But here's the hopeful part. You can improve your sleep, even if you've been struggling for years. Let's break down a few of the most effective habits. 1. Create a sleep-friendly environment. Keep your bedroom cool, dark, and quiet. Use blackout curtains or an eye mask to block light. Use white noise or a fan to mask disruptive sounds. 2. Anchor your sleep schedule. Anchor your sleep schedule. Go to bed and wake up at the same time every day, even on weekends. This trains your body's internal clock to expect rest at a consistent time. 3. Watch what you eat and drink. Watch what you eat and drink. Limit caffeine after midday. Avoid heavy meals right before bed. They can cause discomfort that keeps you awake. Keep alcohol to a minimum. It may make you drowsy at first, but it actually disrupts deep sleep later in the night. 4. Get morning sunlight. Get 10 to 20 minutes of natural light in the morning helps set your circadian rhythm and makes it easier to fall asleep later. 5. Move during the day. Light exercise, even walking, can help deepen your sleep. But avoid intense workouts right before bed. Alice started making small adjustments. She set a bedtime and stuck to it. She opened her curtains every morning to let the sunlight in. She stopped having coffee after lunch. She swapped her late-night TV for reading a book. Within a month, she was sleeping through the night more often. Her energy returned. Her memory sharpened. She felt like herself again. And that's the beauty of sleep. When you improve it, everything else gets better. Your muscles recover faster, your mood stabilizes, your immune system strengthens, your brain works like it's been given fresh batteries. But there's one more piece of the puzzle, and this one isn't about your body at all. It's about your heart, and I don't mean the one that pumps blood. I mean the part of you that needs connection, purpose, and belonging. Because even if your inflammation is under control, your muscles are strong, and you're sleeping well, a certain kind of emptiness can still take years off your life. If inflammation is the fire, muscle loss is the thief, and poor sleep is the repair crew going home early, then loneliness is the quiet storm that can hollow you out from the inside, not just emotionally, but physically. We don't often think of loneliness as a medical problem. We think of it as a feeling, something you get over with a phone call or a visit from a friend. But research shows loneliness isn't just in the mind. It leaves fingerprints on the body. It can weaken the immune system, increase inflammation, and even raise the risk of heart disease and dementia. In fact, long-term social isolation can shorten life expectancy more than smoking 15 cigarettes a day. And after 80, loneliness becomes a more common and more dangerous visitor. The shrinking world. As people age, their world often gets smaller. Friends pass away. Children move to other cities. Physical limitations make it harder to get out, and sometimes driving is no longer an option. Little by little, the days start to look the same, and so does the silence. Take Bill, for example. Bill is 88. 5 years ago, his wife passed away. His children live in other states. He's not in poor health, but he rarely leaves the house. Most days, the TV is his main company. Some days pass without speaking to a single person. When I asked Bill what he missed most, it wasn't the noise of a busy house or the big events. It was the feeling of being needed. Back when my wife was alive, he said, I woke up knowing I had a reason to get out of bed. Now, some mornings, I just sit there, wondering if anyone would notice if I didn't. Why loneliness hurts more than we realize. Humans are wired for connection. It's not a luxury. It's a biological need. When we lose regular social interaction, the brain interprets it as a survival threat. That triggers stress hormones, which in turn cause inflammation, weaken immunity, and affect brain chemistry. And here's the cruel part. The more isolated you feel, the less energy you have to reach out. You start to withdraw, telling yourself it's too much trouble or they're too busy, until the habit of staying home becomes the default. The loss of purpose. It's not just the absence of people, it's the absence of role. In our younger years, we're students, parents, workers, caregivers, neighbors. We have a list of reasons to get up each morning. But after 80, many of those roles fade. Retirement, the loss of a spouse, adult children who no longer need daily care, these leave a quiet vacuum. Without a role, without purpose, even the healthiest body can lose its drive to keep going. And the body listens to that signal. Activity drops, appetite changes, energy fades. Turning the tide, the good news, purpose doesn't have to be grand. It doesn't mean starting a charity or writing a book, though it can. Purpose can be as simple as watering your plants every morning, writing a letter to a grandchild each week, feeding the birds at the same time every day, calling one friend before lunch, volunteering for a few hours at the library or community center. Small, consistent actions create rhythm. Rhythm becomes habit. Habit becomes purpose. And purpose is medicine. Maybe the most underrated kind we have. Reaching out, even when it feels awkward. If you've been alone for a while, reaching out can feel heavy. But it's often the first step that's the hardest. One phone call, one visit to a neighbor, one class at a senior center, and remember, you're not the only one craving connection. Sometimes, by taking that first step, you're giving someone else the lifeline they need too. Bill eventually joined a weekly coffee group at his local church. At first, he just sat and listened. But over time, he began sharing stories, laughing again, even offering rides to others who couldn't drive. It wasn't about fixing his loneliness overnight. It was about putting a little purpose back into each week. Solitude versus loneliness. It's important to make one distinction. Being alone isn't always bad. Solitude can be peaceful, even healing. Loneliness, though, is different. It's when being alone turns into feeling invisible, forgotten, unneeded. That's the state that harms both body and mind. So, ask yourself or someone you love over 80 this simple question. What gives you purpose right now? The answer is the starting point for protecting not just emotional well-being, but physical health too. Even if you conquer inflammation, keep your muscles strong, and sleep deeply, loneliness and loss of purpose can still cut life short. That's why fighting it is just as important as any medical treatment. But here's the uplifting part. When all four of these forces are addressed, inflammation, muscle loss, poor sleep, and loneliness, something powerful happens. Not only do you live longer, you live better. If you've stayed with me through this journey, you now know the four quiet forces that so often steal life after 80. Inflammation, the fire you can't see but feel in ways you don't always recognize. Muscle loss, the thief that takes your strength and balance one step at a time. Poor sleep, the saboteur that robs your body of its chance to heal. And loneliness, the invisible killer that drains your heart, mind, and will to keep going. These aren't just medical terms. They're real-life experiences. They're the moments you see in your parents, your grandparents, your neighbors, maybe even yourself. But here's the truth most people miss. These forces aren't destiny. They're challenges. And like any challenge, they can be prepared for, defended against, even reversed if you know how to act. The power of awareness. Even think of it like this. You wouldn't leave your front door unlocked if you knew there was a thief in the neighborhood. So why leave your health unguarded when you now know what's out there? Awareness is your lock, your alarm system, your defense plan. It's the thing that lets you catch problems early, make small adjustments, and stop damage before it spirals out of control. Why small steps matter more than you think. One of the biggest myths about aging is that if you haven't done something your whole life, it's too late to start. That's simply not true. I've seen people in their late 80s build muscle after decades of weakness. I've seen chronic poor sleepers in their 90s regain energy after adjusting their evening routine. I've seen people who were isolated for years find new purpose and add vibrant, meaningful time to their lives. The secret? They didn't try to change everything overnight. They picked one thing, the thing they could control right now, and they worked on it. And once they built momentum, they added the next. That's how you stack victories. The ripple effect of one choice. What's beautiful about addressing these four forces is how interconnected they are. Improve your sleep, and your inflammation goes down. Reduce inflammation, and your muscles recover better. Build muscle, and you feel more confident leaving the house, which reduces loneliness. Find purpose, and your motivation to eat well, move more, and sleep better skyrockets. It's a cycle, and you get to choose whether it spirals down or up. Your 80-plus self is counting on you. I want you to picture yourself years from now, whether that's at 80, 85, 90, or beyond. What do you want that version of you to be able to do? Is it walking into the kitchen and cooking breakfast without help? Is it tending a small garden? Is it remembering the details of a story so well you make your grandchildren laugh out loud? Is it traveling to a friend's wedding or birthday party without worrying about stamina? That future version of you depends on the choices you make now. And the most powerful time to act is before the damage gets deep. Take an inventory. Right now, ask yourself, inflammation. What's one food or habit you could swap this week to lower that silent fire? Muscle loss. What's one small movement you could commit to daily, even if it's just standing up from a chair without using your hands? Sleep. What's one change you can make tonight to protect your rest? Loneliness. What's one person you could reach out to in the next 24 hours? Don't wait for motivation. Act first, and the motivation will follow. The mindset shift. Aging is not about trying to become who you were at 30. It's about protecting the best of who you are now, so you can carry it forward. It's not about fighting time, it's about making time work for you. When you see an 85-year-old who moves well, laughs often, remembers clearly, and still has a sense of purpose, you're not looking at someone who got lucky. You're looking at someone who understood these four forces and decided they were worth fighting. Your challenge: if you take nothing else from this video, take this. Don't let what you've learned today just be information. Turn it into action. Write down the one thing you'll start doing today to protect your 80-plus self. Then tell someone about it. Make it real. Because the choice isn't just about living longer. It's about living better with your independence, dignity, and joy intact. A final word: living beyond 80 is a gift, but living well beyond 80 is a decision. Inflammation, muscle loss, poor sleep, and loneliness may be common, but they don't have to define you. You've earned the right to live this stage of life with wisdom and strength. Protect it fiercely. Nurture it daily, and never underestimate the power of one small change, because one small change can alter the entire course of your years ahead. If something in this message spoke to you, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Share what stood out the most and how you plan to use it in your own life or in helping someone you love. And if you found this video valuable, please like, share, and subscribe so we can keep bringing you more tools, stories, and strategies to help you live stronger, longer, and better. Thank you for joining me today. Here's to the years ahead. May they be long, healthy, and deeply meaningful.